Diane and Jack arrive at the Abbott mansion, still complaining about the hedge maze and Victor hiring Audra to seduce Kyle. Jack scoffs at the idea that Victor will back off and warns Audra is bound to lose everything over this. Diane, knowing of what she speaks, says a woman with nothing left to lose is dangerous. Billy appears as Jack and Diane discuss plots and schemes. Diane skedaddles so he and Jack can talk. Billy informs Jack that it's time they end their business relationship. Jack raises an eyebrow as Billy says Cain is considering buying out his interests. Momentarily forgetting his brother's penchant for risk-taking, Jack says he can't imagine why Billy would place his future in Cain's hands. Jack goes over Cain's deception and lies for the umpteenth time, but Billy doesn't care to hear it. Single-minded as always, Billy simply wants to know if Jack will sell his interest in Abbott Communications. When Jack hints that he will, Billy accuses him of thinking he's stepped over to the dark side. Jack knows Billy is going after Chancellor and Victor. If he's successful, Sally will be running Abbott Communications. Jack was making an investment in Billy, not Sally, so he'll call Cain to cut a deal. Billy informs Jack that they need to separate family and business. Singing the same old tune, he complains that Jack doesn't trust him. They agree they see the world differently. Jack questions if Cain will let Billy call the shots. Is it possible that Billy's not seeing the bigger picture? That this is just another piece of the puzzle that Cain's putting together? Responding as only a gambler would, Billy says Cain is a wild card, but he's willing to take the chance. Diane walks into Crimson Lights and sees none other than her arch-rival, Phyllis. The redhead makes it clear that despite going easy on her amid the tension in Nice, they can now go back to the way they were. Rising to the occasion, Diane remarks on Phyllis leeching onto Cain and wonders if he's since come to see her for the parasite she is. Phyllis purrs that Cain can't get enough of her. Diane and Phyllis continue to trade barbs. Diane accuses Phyllis of blowing smoke about Cain. Phyllis likes to keep the competition guessing. Diane scoffs, "Please!" and points out Phyllis stepped over 2 dead bodies to make a deal. Phyllis tries to shame Diane by saying she saw Damien die and that Chance was a good man who dated her daughter. To insinuate that she's unmoved by their deaths is insulting. This launches a debate on whether or not Cain is to blame for the homicides. Without a hint of self-awareness, Diane gripes about Cain deceiving everyone for the past 6 years. Phyllis gawps, "Diane, seriously? How many years did you deceive your family and friends, pretending to be dead?" Diane takes this on board, but hits back that Phyllis faked her death as well. Jack's wife sniffs that Phyllis and Cain are cut from the same cloth. It's no surprise they're getting into bed together. In the park, Tessa is trying to figure out what Aria wants to do when, who else but Daniel, shows up to, undoubtedly, save the day. Tessa introduces him to the child as her friend, and he pulls a packet of gummies out of his bag. This does the trick. Daniel notices they're both out of sorts, and Tessa admits she's practically a single mom since Mariah left. The visits are hard. Does he have anything in his bag to make her smile? Unsurprisingly, he thinks he does. As they sit on a picnic blanket together, Daniel tries to get Tessa to see animal shapes in the clouds. Once she's sufficiently distracted from her problems, Daniel ruminates on keeping your kids smiling, even when it's the last thing you want to do. Tessa confesses she's been crying herself to sleep, so Daniel gives her some more uplifting advice. Finally, in a move that will surprise no one who sees where this is headed, Tessa places her hand on Daniel's arm and tells him he's kind and gentle and makes others feel safe. Talk turns to napping and Daniel's upcoming guitar lesson. He tells her he has a surprise for her. Tessa tells her she needs this lesson more than he does. As is wont to happen on soaps, he blurts, "It's a date," and then awkwardly backtracks. Tessa asks him to come with her and Aria somewhere first. At Crimson Lights, Diane warns Phyllis about becoming Cain's next casualty as Daniel arrives with Tessa and Aria. Diane rants that she'll leave Phyllis to give her positive spin on the murders in Nice as she walks out to the patio. Daniel raises an eyebrow, and Tessa decides she should leave them to catch up. Phyllis asks to go somewhere else so they can't be spied on, and glares at Diane as they exit. Once alone, Tessa gets flustered after a call about a staffing issue at work and drops something on the floor. Diane steps in to help, and they end up having a heart-to-heart. Diane pulls out a pack of crayons that she carries for Harrison, and Tessa remarks on the guardian angels she's had today. Diane assures her she's doing the best she can for Arya, and that's enough. At Society, Daniel's vaguely disappointed to hear that the international man of mystery, Aristotle Dumas, is Cain Ashby. Phyllis enthuses that he's moving back to Genoa City and bringing his empire with him. Leaning forward, Red swears her son to secrecy before whispering conspiratorially about Cain's plot to acquire all the major companies in town. Daniel's skeptical, given his mom is short on details. Phyllis mutters about NDAs and such. Daniel's scared to ask why she's the one keeping Cain's secrets. His mother intones, "I'm the one that's going to help him do it." In a moment of total déjà vu, Phyllis tries to tell Daniel that he could write his own ticket if he came to work for her and Cain. Daniel expresses doubt, though he's glad his mother has found someone to match her ambitions. That enthusiasm goes by the wayside, however, when he learns that none other than Billy is also involved in the plan. Phyllis assures Daniel that Cain is just using Billy. For what, she can't say, but Cain respects her and what she brings to the table. "He likes the way I think." Scarfing down a croissant, Daniel warns his mother to use caution. Billy appears and declares it may be time to throw caution to the wind. On Crimson Light's patio, Jack updates Diane that Billy seems to want him to stick him around, though he doesn't know why, but his brother is determined to throw in with Cain. Diane tells him Phyllis is putting all her trust in Cain as well. Jack sees red flags all around. Diane reminds Jack he told her earlier that he might be willing to throw in with Cain. Jack admits he'd do a deal with the devil if it meant sticking it to Victor Newman. Jack worries that if Cain buys him out, Billy will be in a very vulnerable position. He can't help but wonder what Jill would make of all this. Jack warns Diane that if Billy aligns himself with Cain, there may be no turning back for the brothers professionally. Inside, Tessa uses Diane's crayons to draw a picture of Mariah, separate from a drawing of her and Arya. She tells the child that Mariah loves them and they can't forget that. She explains that even mommy's hearts get boo-boos and they lose patience, but they still love you. Still at Society, Billy and Phyllis snark at each other as Daniel looks back and forth between them as though watching a ping-pong match. Daniel finally intervenes to remark on Dumas being Cain Ashby. They speculate on whether Victor knew or whether he was pretending so as to appear the smartest man in the room. Stating the obvious, Daniel shrugs. He usually is. Phyllis declares that the power dynamic in Genoa City is about to change. Billy grins. It definitely is. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie, here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching! So let's dive into today's video. Y&R spoiler alert. Here are your teasers for The Young and the Restless for the week of Monday, August 4th to Friday, August 8th, 2025. Be sure to tune in to CBS every weekday to see how everything plays out in Genoa City. Victor loses patience with Adam's insubordination. Cain forms a new alliance. Chelsea shares a secret with Lily Victor. And Nikki argue about family matters. Jill and Billy share a heated exchange. Phyllis protects her interests. Victor gives Audra her walking papers. Kyle comes clean with Claire. Nikki asks Jack for a favor. Victor wants Lily to join his revenge plot. Claire sets the record straight with Audra. Kyle tries to strike a deal with Adam. Victor strikes an unexpected deal. Phyllis pushes Billy's buttons. Chelsea is forced to take sides on the Thursday, July 31st, episode of The Young and the Restless. The Newmans, the Abbotts, and Audra return to Genoa City. Victoria reunited with her family, and Claire reconnected with Kyle. Audra warmly embraced Nate at Society and told him that she missed him. She shared her sympathies and disbelief over Damien's death. Audra said she was there for Nate and Amy. She said going to Nice was a huge mistake. Nate asked for details. Audra hedged and said the trip was bad because of what happened to Chance and Cain. She recounted that they were all cut off from the world, and two good men paid the price. "I wish we'd all stayed home," Audra sighed. That way, Amy would still have her son. Nate wondered what would have happened if he had gone on the trip. Nate said that having to tell Amy that Damien, her son, was dead was the hardest thing he'd ever done. Audra said Amy feared Damien would have to bury her, but now she has to bury him. Nate said Damien's body was being flown to Chicago so he could be laid to rest next to Jackson. Audra asked how she could be there for Nate and Amy. She added that her work didn't matter. Nate was worried about Amy. Audra pointed out that Nate lost a brother. Nate said he came close to getting tickets for a sporting event for him and Damien. He also had a project in mind for his half-brother, and he was going to be welcomed into the family business. Vicky asked Claire to go with her to her parents' home. Claire said she had to see Kyle first. Victoria urged Claire to see Victor and Nikki before she saw Kyle. Otherwise, Victor wouldn't be happy. Vicky said Victor was trying to bring everyone together. Claire suggested to her mother that she lie, and that Claire wasn't feeling well. Vicky said she wouldn't do that. Claire left to go and see Kyle. Jack, Diane, and Kyle arrived back at the Abbott mansion. They talked about Kyle coming home in time for school. Diane lamented that her and Jack's honeymoon got derailed. Jack said Cain has never truly revealed his hand, so therefore, no one should get too comfortable. Diane seconded Kyle's suggestion that they go 24 hours without talking about Cain and the trip to France. Diane noted how horrible this must be for both Chance and Damien's families. Diane suggested they get something to eat. Kyle said he wanted to see Claire first. He left. Diane wondered how Claire would respond to Victor's role in Audra having made a pass at Kyle in France. Jack pointed out to Diane that Kyle not only didn't fall for Audra and Victor's plot, but he let Victor know he was on to him. Diane said Claire won't like how far Kyle took it to prove a point. Jack asked why Diane would have doubts. Diane wasn't sure Claire could overlook Kyle getting so close to Audra, given how powerful jealousy can be. Diane said it'd be foolish to think that Victor was admitting defeat. Jack and Diane went to society, and he ran into Nate and Audra. Diane agreed to hold her tongue with Audra for Nate's sake. They approached Nate and Audra's table. Diane and Jack said nice things about Damien. Nate thanked Jack and Diane for their support. There were so many disturbing surprises, Diane pointedly told Audra when she mentioned all the shocks. Diane told Jack that the food at society felt like home. Jack agreed that the conflict with Kyle and Victor over Claire is likely far from over. He hoped that Cain's threat to the Newmans would distract Victor from Kyle. Jack contemplated joining forces with Cain if it meant distracting Victor. Claire and Kyle shared a big hug as they reunited in Chancellor Park. Claire acknowledged that Kyle and the others were trapped, and he couldn't get to her. She asked what else happened in Nice. Kyle said there'd be time to talk about that later. He asked how he could help Claire. She asked that he wrap his arms around her and never let go. Claire shared that she was supposed to be at a Newman family gathering. Kyle said he was honored she saw him first. Claire said she needed to be prepared. Was there anything that happened in France that she needed to know about? Kyle dodged getting specific. Claire wanted to know if Kyle had gotten in a fight with her grandfather. Kyle hedged, but Claire pressed him for details. Kyle claimed that he and Victor barely crossed paths, and his focus was on Cain. Claire playfully hoped that that meant Victor was accepting them. Kyle downplayed that. As Claire wondered why Victor didn't escalate his attack on Kyle, Nate and Audra appeared. Audra said Claire was glad to have Kyle back. In turn, Kyle said that Nate was glad to have Audra back. Kyle and Audra shared respective condolences on Damien and Cole. Audra started to leave. Kyle asked her how Vibrante was doing in light of the setbacks. Audra said things were fine and that the crisis had been averted. Audra said the promotional campaign was halted after the problems arose. Kyle teased Audra that her investor could be having second thoughts. He wished her good luck, and then Kyle left with Claire. "What was that about?" Nate asked. Audra told Nate that Kyle holds a grudge and was lording his company over him. She pointed out that Jack handed Kyle his job at Jabot Cosmetics. Nate wondered if Victor was yanking his funds. Audra said that she wasn't scraping her plans to move forward with Vibrante. She didn't want to bother Victor now that he and his family are mourning Cole. Nate pointed out that Kyle was cocky. He thought there was a piece missing. Audra got cozy with Nate, and suggested they get caught up on lost time. Nate looked concerned. Kyle joined Jack and Diane at society. He told his parents that losing Cole hit her hard. Kyle said Claire asked him about Victor, but Kyle said he held off on sharing anything with her. Jack and Diane agreed that that was a good idea. Kyle observed that Victor appeared to still be working with Audra. Kyle wondered if Victor would finally accept that his love for Claire was real. Diane and Jack noted to Kyle that Victor wasn't likely to come around. Kyle let his parents know that he wanted to let Nate know about Audra's attempted seduction, but he wouldn't tell him while he was mourning his brother. He did say he made a dig at Audra. Victor, Nikki, Nick, and Sharon walked into Victor and Nikki's ranch, relieved to be home. Sharon said she couldn't stop thinking about Chance. "He was special," Sharon said, recalling Chance's support during her ordeals. Nikki asked her husband if Cain's threat was that strong. Nick and Victor agreed that it was. Nikki suggested that Nick and Sharon go see their children. Nick said Christian was at basketball camp. Sharon said she'd been in touch with her children too. Then, Victoria showed up and warmly reunited with her family. Vicky said she was never more heartbroken in her whole life. "Cole was a good man," Victor pointed out. Vicky thanked her dad. Nikki noted that Victor knew Cole cared about Vicky and Claire. Nick gave his sister a big hug. Vicky quipped she was never filling in for Nick at work again, so his days of fighting guards in Europe were over. Victor asked how Claire was doing. He added he was anxious to see her. Vicky said she'd be by later. Victor surmised that Claire went to see Kyle before her family. Vicky said that Faith and Mariah must be thrilled that Sharon was home. Victor asked Victoria why she didn't bring Claire with her. Nikki and Nick pointed out that Claire wanted to be with Kyle, given that she lost her father. Victor said it was clear where her priorities were. Nick, Victoria, and Nikki urged Victor to drop his issue with Kyle. Victoria asked her father to put aside his feelings about Kyle while they prepared to say goodbye to Cole. Then, Claire entered and gave her grandfather a big hug. Nick and Sharon told Claire that they were there for her. Claire said friends, including Nate, stepped up while they were away. Victor added that they will see Claire through the loss of her dad. Nick asked Sharon where she was going. She said she shouldn't be there. Nick said he wanted her there, and it felt like she was still a part of the family. Sharon said she and Nick should talk about their kiss later. Nick urged Sharon to rejoin the family. Victoria told Claire that it'd be okay if she cried at Cole's service. Victor declared that if the Newmans stood together as a family, then they would all prevail. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, August 4th reveal that Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott will seek a deal, so Adam Newman will face an office ambush. At Newman Media, Adam will be taken aback when Kyle and Claire come along. It'll leave Adam wondering about the reason for this visit, so Claire will confess why they've come to his office without warning. It turns out Claire and Kyle will be hoping to strike a deal, so Adam may assume Victor Newman is out of the loop on this. However, Claire may argue that they don't need Victor's approval since she's a grown woman who can make her own choices. In Nice, Kyle made a bold declaration to Victor about moving in with Claire once he got back home. Victor has been trying to block this major relationship milestone, but he may not be able to do that for much longer. If Adam's place is still available, then Kyle and Claire may hope to lock it in. Despite Victor forbidding this real estate agreement, Claire and Kyle may pressure Adam to make it anyway. Now that Cole Howard has passed away, it's been a good reminder for Claire to seize the day. Tomorrow is never guaranteed, so Cole's demise was perhaps a wake-up call for Claire and may spur her to action. This time apart has also helped Claire realize how important Kyle is to her, so she'll be ready to get the ball rolling on their next chapter together. Y&R fans are already starting to see Claire become a little more daring about standing up to Victor, like when she insisted on seeing Kyle before joining the Newman family meeting. Victor isn't going to appreciate it if Claire takes things a step further and strikes a deal with Adam behind his back. Of course, Adam may be a bit wary of rocking the boat with Victor, since he's on better terms with his father these days. It'll be up to Claire and Kyle to convince Adam that the deal they want is worth his while. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that 3 marriage proposals could shake up Genoa City. But which couples will actually tie the knot? Some engagement drama could be brewing. So let's talk about multiple marriage offers. and whether any weddings will really happen. Of course, we should mention that one successful proposal recently played out. Danny Romalotti popped the question to Christine Blair, who enthusiastically accepted his engagement ring. Now Christine and Danny have some wedding bells in their future, but more proposals could be in the works. Let's talk about who might get down on one knee and the responses their marriage offers might get. 1. Adam proposes to Chelsea. There have already been plenty of hints about Chelsea Lawson and Adam Newman eventually having another wedding. Adam even embarrassed Chelsea with a proposal fake-out at Society, so the show has to be going somewhere with all the marriage hints. At some point, Adam seems poised to pop the question for real and ask Chelsea to be his wife again. Chelsea has faith in the changes she's seen in Adam and is playing for keeps, so he may convince her the time is right to get engaged and plan their nuptials. 2. Billy's wedding pitch to Sally. Billy Abbott is always going to be rather competitive when it comes to Adam, so we could certainly imagine him proposing to Sally Spectra too. Even if it happens on a subconscious level, part of Billy might feel the need to keep up with Adam and Chelsea's relationship progression. Y&R fans can expect Sally and Billy to face some new challenges as she takes on a bigger role at Abbott Communications, which will allow him to focus on the right for Chancellor. However, Billy may assure Sally that he's still all in on their future together and ultimately propose to prove it. Will Sally think it's too soon for a step that big and pump the brakes? 3. Cain's plea to Lily for marriage do-over. Cain Ashby's return to Genoa City will bring the opportunity for some grand gestures when it comes to his continued Lily Winters pursuit. It's clear that Cain isn't giving up on scoring another chance with the love of his life. As a result, it seems likely Cain will pull out all the stops on an unwanted proposal. Cain may ambush Lily with a marriage offer and face the sting of rejection, but he could at least try to convince her that remarriage is the right call. The Young and the Restless preview for the week of August 4th reveals Cain Ashby will prepare for battle by gathering his troops. Also coming up, Victor Newman will have a suggestion for Lily Winters. Plus, Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott will make an appeal to Adam Newman. Y&R. Spoilers tease Kyle and Claire desperately want to move in together and even tried to buy Adam's condo. However, Victor put the kibosh on their plans, forcing his son to renege on the purchase. So, they'll show up at Adam's office. He'll ask what brings them by. Why else do Newmans drop by each other's offices unannounced? Claire replies in the Y&R Weekly preview, to make deal. Meanwhile, Victor will run into Lily and Devin Winters at Crimson Lights. He'll ask her if she's aware that her ex-husband Cain Ashby is in Genoa City. Lily will say she and Devin were just talking about that. I plan to avoid him at all costs, she'll add. But Victor will have another thought. I don't think that's a good idea necessarily, he'll reply. So, will he suggest that Lily spy on Cain to find out what he's up to? Finally, Phyllis Summers will meet up with Cain in his hotel room. He'll tell her someone else is going to be joining them. Well, they must be a heavy hitter if you're letting them into your business world, she'll reply. Then he'll open the door to his suite, and Billy Abbott will be standing there. Who's ready to make some waves? He'll ask Cain. But do Billy, Phyllis, and Cain plan to take down Victor? Hey Y&R fans! Are you enjoying the new CBS Sudzer Beyond the Gates? Then make sure you join our free Facebook group. Keep reading the Soap Scoop for Young and the Restless spoilers and news. And make sure to also join our Y&R Facebook group or leave us a reply in our comments section. But if you miss an episode, don't fret. You can watch The Young and the Restless online at cbs.com. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Kyle Abbott and Audra Charles's private encounter may have been recorded. Did Cain Ashby lie when he told Chance Chancellor that there were no cameras in the bedrooms? Ever since Cain came back on the scene and revealed he was the man behind Aristotle Dumas's empire, there's been no shortage of deception. Cain lied about his double life for years, and ultimately lied about his guests being stranded without cell service too. With that in mind, Cain's claims can never truly be trusted. It's wise to consider the possibility that Cain's lying. No matter the topic. During all the madness in Nice, Chance seemed surprised by Cain's massive security footage setup and all the cameras on the property. Cain acted like it was standard stuff for an estate like his, and insisted there were no cameras in the bedrooms. Considering Cain has lied about so many other things, could he have been fibbing about the lack of bedroom cameras as well? Cain may not have wanted to seem like a creep, but we wouldn't be surprised if he monitored his guests in the sleeping cars, despite the violation of privacy. If bedroom camera footage does exist, that could lead to trouble for Kyle and Audra. What if there's a secret recording of Kyle wearing only a towel as he made out with Audra and got on top of her in bed? Diane Jenkins Abbott already pointed out that Claire Newman probably won't approve of Kyle going to such an extreme with Audra. Kyle may not have slept with his former flame, but he still crossed plenty of lines. Of course, Kyle is delaying his confession about Victor Newman hiring Audra for the seduction scheme and the trap he set. Claire is still grieving Cole Howard, so Kyle doesn't want to give her more drama to contend with. Kyle might even decide to bury the incident altogether, but that plan may not fly if he was caught on camera with Audra. We could certainly imagine Cain using a recording like that as leverage. Cain might threaten Kyle and even Jack Abbott to do what he wants. It's also possible Cain could offer the recording to Victor as a trade for Chancellor or something else valuable to him. Victor could view this as betrayal proof and use it to blow up Claire's romance with Kyle, especially if the video cuts out before Kyle pulls back. This could also give Victor evidence to help him collect $5 million from Kyle and try to drive him out of town. Whatever the case, Y&R fans know there was a ton of focus on the security cameras in Nice. Could there be bedroom footage after all? And could it show Kyle's scandalous moments with Audra behind closed doors? The Young and the Restless recap for Friday, August 1st, reveals that Diane Jenkins Abbott will have a backstabber warning for Phyllis Summers while Daniel Romalotti Jr.'s date with Tessa Porter gets derailed. In the park on Friday's Y&R episode, Tessa will struggle to figure out what Aria Porter Copeland wants after a skipped playdate. Tessa will be out of fish crackers, but Daniel will pop up and come to her rescue with some fish gummies instead. Daniel will also manage to get Aria to nap and will teach Tessa how to find animals in the clouds. After Tessa opens up about basically being a single mom since Mariah Copeland has been so distant, she'll look forward to the distraction of Daniel's guitar lesson. Daniel will suggest it's a date before quickly adding that he doesn't mean a date. At Crimson Lights, Diane will run into Phyllis, who'll play up her alliance with Cain Ashby while still being cryptic about it. Diane will be annoyed and suggest Phyllis is a lot like Cain, so she'll act like it's no wonder Phyllis is getting into bed with him. After Diane hints that Phyllis could get stabbed in the back next, she'll ultimately saunter off. Once Daniel comes with Tessa and Aria to the coffee house, they'll bump into Phyllis next. Tessa will decide to postpone their guitar lesson so that Daniel has a chance to catch up with Phyllis following all the drama in Nice. After Daniel and Phyllis leave together, Tessa will realize she forgot to bring toys to distract Aria after her nap. It'll leave Tessa worried about Aria's imminent meltdown, but Diane will offer a pep talk and some of Harrison Abbott's crayons from her purse. At the Abbott mansion, Billy Abbott will tell Jack that they should end their business partnership and will wonder if he's willing to give up his interest in Abbott Communications. Jack will indeed be willing to surrender his shares and will talk about calling Cain regarding a deal for them. Billy will be surprised over how easily Jack's agreeing to this and will worry about a catch, but Jack will seem more concerned about Cain being such a wild card. Despite all the concerns, Billy will appreciate the fact that Cain's willing to bet on him and will want to take a chance on Cain in return. Once Jack meets up with Diane and offers updates, she'll point out that Jack said he'd be willing to align with Cain if it meant helping Kyle Abbott handle Victor Newman. Jack will acknowledge that he'd make a deal with the devil to stick it to Victor, but he'll still fret over Cain buying him out and putting Billy in a vulnerable spot. At Society, Phyllis will give Daniel the news that Cain is Aristotle Dumas and that he's planning to take over all the major companies in Genoa City. Although Phyllis won't be able to get into the details, she'll insist she's going to help Cain and will hint about Billy's involvement too. Daniel will want Phyllis to be careful, but Billy will appear nearby and act like they should throw caution to the wind instead. There'll be some talk about how the power dynamics in GC are about to change big time. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Monday, August 4th reveal that Claire Newman and Kyle Abbott will seek a deal, so Adam Newman will face an office ambush. At Newman Media, Adam will be taken aback when Kyle and Claire come along. It'll leave Adam wondering about the reason for this visit, so Claire will confess why they've come to his office without warning. It turns out Claire and Kyle will be hoping to strike a deal, so Adam may assume Victor Newman is out of the loop on this. However, Claire may argue that they don't need Victor's approval since she's a grown woman who can make her own choices. In Nice, Kyle made a bold declaration to Victor about moving in with Claire once he got back home. Victor has been trying to block this major relationship milestone, but he may not be able to do that for much longer. If Adam's place is still available, then Kyle and Claire may hope to lock it in. Despite Victor forbidding this real estate agreement, Claire and Kyle may pressure Adam to make it anyway. Now that Cole Howard has passed away, it's been a good reminder for Claire to seize the day. Tomorrow is never guaranteed, so Cole's demise was perhaps a wake-up call for Claire and may spur her to action. This time apart has also helped Claire realize how important Kyle is to her, so she'll be ready to get the ball rolling on their next chapter together. Y&R fans are already starting to see Claire become a little more daring about standing up to Victor, like when she insisted on seeing Kyle before joining the Newman family meeting. Victor isn't going to appreciate it if Claire takes things a step further and strikes a deal with Adam behind his back. Of course, Adam may be a bit wary of rocking the boat with Victor since he's on better terms with his father these days. It'll be up to Claire and Kyle to convince Adam that the deal they want is worth his while. The Young and the Restless spoilers say Kyle and Claire will give Adam updates on their proposal, so stay tuned to see if they'll get the good news they're after. In the recent episode of the CBS soap opera, The Young and the Restless, aired on July 31st, 2025, Claire came back to Genoa City and chose to see Kyle first, ignoring warnings from Victoria and upsetting Victor. At the same time, Kyle kept quiet about Audra and Victor's actions, risking his relationship with Claire. Over at Society, Audra and Nate reunited, but their chat showed tension. Audra avoided Kyle's comments about business problems, while Nate started to suspect she was hiding something, especially after running into Kyle and Claire in the park. At the Abbott mansion, Jack and Diane worried about Kyle's choices. They weren't sure Claire would forgive him once the truth came out. Jack even thought about teaming up with Cain to stand against Victor, hinting at a bigger fight ahead. Claire and Victoria on The Young and the Restless talked at the Tack House, where Victoria gave updates about the family's return. But Claire was focused on seeing Kyle and wouldn't listen to Victoria's warning that Victor wouldn't like it. At the Newman Ranch, Victor, Nikki, Nick, and Sharon waited for Claire. When she didn't show up, Victor felt hurt and believed she was putting Kyle before her grieving family. Jack, Diane, and Kyle come home to the Abbott mansion on The Young and the Restless, still shaken by everything. Jack and Diane ask Kyle to join them at Society, but he says no, as he wants to see Claire first. In the park, Claire and Kyle hugged. She asked about his trip and Victor, but Kyle avoided the truth. He didn't mention Victor's plans or what happened with Audra, thinking Claire didn't need more pain while grieving. Still, keeping secrets could cause problems later. Nate and Audra met at Society and talked about the nice trip. Nate wished he had gone with her, while Audra said she regretted it. They tried to move on, but the Damien Cain scandal still lingered. Later, in the park, they ran into Claire and Kyle. When Kyle mentioned problems with Vibrante's investor, Audra denied it. Nate grew suspicious and felt she was hiding something. Audra tried to distract him with kisses, but Nate wasn't convinced. At Society on The Young and the Restless, Diane and Jack sat near Nate and Audra. Diane noticed tension between them and hinted that Audra was hiding more about the nice trip. Jack worried about Victor's pressure on Claire and Kyle and said he might team up with Cain to protect Kyle. Diane was surprised, but understood. Jack felt Victor needed to be taken down. When Kyle arrived, he admitted he hadn't told Claire or Nate the truth. He didn't want to upset them while they were grieving. Diane feared Claire wouldn't handle the truth well, especially about Audra. But Kyle felt it wasn't the right time. At the Newman Ranch, Claire returned and hugged Victor. They shared a brief moment before talking about Cole's memorial. Nearby, Sharon and Nick talked alone. Sharon said she felt out of place, but Nick told her she was family and he wanted her there. When Sharon mentioned their kiss, Nick kept things vague and said they could just wait and see if it happened again. Sharon was left unsure of what it meant. Should the Aristotle Dumas story have gone in a different route? The Aristotle Dumas mystery was one of the biggest storylines this year on The Young and the Restless. After months of anticipation, the mysterious businessman was revealed to be Cain. But should the show have gone in a different direction? Y&R put a lot of focus on the Aristotle Dumas story. After months of teasing, his identity was finally revealed during a party in France. It turns out that Cain was the mysterious businessman. Many fans suspected Cain, or a former character, was Dumas. Their hunch was proven with Cain's grand reveal. The climax of the Dumas storyline has garnered mixed reactions among fans. On Reddit, some fans believe the story should have been used to introduce a new dynasty. Instead of bringing back Cain, The Young and the Restless should have made Aristotle Dumas a whole new character and built an entire family around him, not just a one-off guy. I'm talking about a full-on Dumas dynasty that could actually rival the Newmans, one fan suggested. I honestly thought that was the plan, but I don't think your idea ever entered their minds. There are so many great examples from soap operas past, with the intro of a new family changing the landscape. I can't grasp why Y&R won't do it, another fan replied. Unfortunately, no new characters or family was added, much to the fans' disappointment. But Cain is back and ready to start his own dynasty. Now that he's a top businessman, he's ready to take on Genoa City's elite. But will his ex-wife Lily be by his side? Or will Cain find another woman to build a new dynasty with? Who is Cain's new partner? The Young and the Restless, spoilers for Monday, August 4th, prove that Victor, back in Genoa City, is a Victor mad at Adam. It's good to know that his recent traumatic experience didn't change our old Vic an iota. Adam scaled an entire mountain, both ways, in order to bring important corporate news to his family trapped in France. Victor thanked him, but now that he's back in Genoa City, it's, "What have you done for me lately?" Who cares that Adam held down the professional fort while they were all gone, or that he was Victoria's only family support after Cole's death? The important thing is that Adam decided, all by himself, with no fatherly input, not to destroy Billy. How could he? How dare he? Such insubordination will not be tolerated, you got that? But Adam didn't decide not to humiliate Billy on his own. It was actually Chelsea's idea. She batted her beautiful eyes at him, and Adam couldn't resist. While Adam gets tongue-lashed by Victor, Chelsea is catching up with Lily. Chelsea knows something about Cain that Lily doesn't. Will she spill? And what will she ask for in return? Cain is back in Genoa City too. He's made enemies of Victor, Nikki, Nick, Sharon, Jack, Diane, Kyle, and Audra. But Billy and Phyllis are more intrigued than ever, so he's got them on his side. As well as one more surprising person. Now we've got a party. Will his new alliances be enough to take on the great Victor Newman? Billy's choosing chaos over caution once again. Billy is doing that thing again. He's letting his stubborn streak do the steering. After the August 1st episode of Young and the Restless, fans are screaming at their screens for good reason. Jack has officially pulled the plug on Abbott Communications, but instead of taking a step back, Billy is doubling down. And the partner he's chosen to roll with? Cain Ashby. Yep, you read that right. Cain, the man with a money trail Diane, and everyone else, is suddenly very interested in, is now Billy's new business bestie. And honestly, this alliance is raising more eyebrows than a Genoa City wedding. Weren't they practically enemies when Cain left town? This doesn't seem right. Right? Let's break it down. Jack's departure should have been Billy's cue to reevaluate. But no, he's pushing full steam ahead with Cain, who has been mostly MIA the past few years, and is now mysteriously stacked with cash. If that doesn't scream red flag, what does? Billy's decision to team up with Cain isn't just bold, it's borderline reckless. Cain's reputation isn't exactly squeaky clean, and everyone snooping around his finances should be setting off every alarm bell. But Billy? He's ignoring all that, acting like this is some genius strategic pivot instead of a potential disaster waiting to happen. What makes it worse is Billy's motivation. Is he really trying to prove he can hold his own in the business world? Or is this another ego-driven attempt to step out from under Jack's shadow? Either way, it feels like he's playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess. Meanwhile, Diane is working overtime to uncover what's really going on with Cain, and that's not just casual curiosity. She's on a mission. If Billy thinks he can outmaneuver both Diane and the growing list of corporate landmines, he better think again. This Cain connection has trap written all over it, and unless Billy starts listening to his gut, he's going to end up holding the bag when it all goes boom. So yes, Billy might be putting his eggs in the wrong basket, and this time, the cracks are showing before they even hit the ground.